reported earlier this week that the Steelers are optimistic Roethlisberger will recover from his elbow surgery. And Ben sounds optimistic himself. He addressed his future on Twitter. Wrote, P.S. Contrary to recent reports out there about my football future and my uncertainty about playing again, I am working hard and am more determined than ever to come back stronger and better than ever next year, with an exclamation point. So, to discuss this, we have relocated to our Domino's pregame headquarters, and we are talking about Big Ben. He says he's coming back. He's been out since week 2 with that elbow injury. Are there concerns about him coming back and continuing to play at a high level off that injury?
I mean, there's a ton of concerns. I mean, he's 37 years old right now. He'll be 38 in March. When you look at the type of injury, an elbow injury to his throwing shoulder or his throwing arm, and you have to have some level of concern, especially coming back to be another year older. What type of Ben will we see? What type of quarterback will he be? He ain't going to be the quarterback that's jumping in front of people like we just saw right there and taking hits. And I don't think he's going to be, or he wants to be that type of quarterback at this juncture of his career. He wants to be a guy that's obviously going to be do most of his work inside the pocket, throwing the ball to his playmakers, which I think he can be effective. If he comes back healthy and he has all of his playmakers that he has now, I think he has a number 1 in Juju. I think he's got a running back in Connor. I think that defense, that defense has 9 first-round draft picks. I mean, he has the tools around him for that team to be successful. It all boils down to how will Ben Roethlisberger come back off of this injury, because that's going to tell the tale on where this team goes and where the future goes.
Did he say he's going to come back as a quarterback or a lineman? Because he looks pretty big right now. I'm just saying, like,
he's trying to hide it in the beard.
Is it the beard? The beard. I get it. But look, it's an elbow injury, and you're an older quarterback. Coming back from that's going to be tough, like you said, Vic. It's tough.
He is hefty right there.
He's looking real. He's working hard, but maybe, eating hard.
Hey, listen, it's the holidays. Give this man a break.
It's the holidays. You got weeks. Come on now, but I'm just saying, you come back.
Of year to keep it off.
Exactly, right? It's a tough time of year, but when you have an injury, and so early in the season, I think that's a different aspect of when you have the injury early. He should be working and looking a little bit better than he does right now if he wants to be back for next season. I mean, look, it comes real quick. Once the season's over, the offseason starts really fast. So I think if you're looking towards next season, you would want to see him progressing a little bit quicker.
So you think that his weight or what he looks like is an indication of the rehab, or how much he's been rehabbing?
How much you've been working, of course. It's how much cardio, how much running, because all that stuff comes into effect when he's going to be a quarterback next season. He's going to be getting hit. He's going to have to be conditioned, not just in his elbow and his shoulder and his arm. His whole body's got to be in shape, because when you're taking hits from linebackers coming in on you, your core, your legs, that all has to be strong, or else you could have another injury somewhere else.
Well, I'm going to take Ben at his word, and if he's going to say, you know what, he's more determined than ever to, come back and play a certain way, I believe him. I totally get what you're saying in terms of he looks like he could, maybe be a little bit more shredded. But I do think it's a good thing that the injury happened early in the year. That gives him more time to get where he needs to be. And I do think stepping away from the game and just watching how they performed without him, not so many people thought that this was going to be the type of season that they were going to have with some of these, star players and, out. So I think that that's actually good. For me, I want to see James Conner, get through a season and play healthy in the absence of Le'Veon Bell, missing 5 games with that shoulder, rushing just 90 rush yards a game. I mean, remember how everyone was talking when Le'Veon was there or out and James was there and what have you, and they haven't had the durability from him. So I think he needs to have the health, from his running back and his rushing game that'll help keep the attention off of him also when he comes back.
Be a lot to watch for the Steelers this offseason and into next year, of course. Roethlisberger was part of that star-studded 2004 quarterback class, along with Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. Of those 3 guys, Roethlisberger has the highest win percentage, and his 2 Super Bowl victories are tied with Eli. Rivers, of course, still looking for his first. So while we're talking about the 2004 quarterback draft class, what do we think about Eli Manning and his future beyond New York after this year?
Well, I think it was just great to see him come back and have those games where it was somewhat vintage Eli, and for him to have that Renaissance experience, because just for the Giants faithful, they didn't have the opportunity to really say goodbye in a sense of we don't know what's going to happen beyond this year, or if another team, if he would go to another team where he feels comfortable potentially moving his family. Do the Giants, want him back? Interestingly enough, his offensive efficiency is actually higher than Daniel Jones this year for the 4 games that he did have. I know the sample is smaller, but you did kind of feel like the team was invigorated by his return, so I thought that was nice for him to experience. But other than that, I think it's really up to Eli to determine where can he be happy and where is his livelihood happy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With this type of situation, another year, potentially?
Yeah, I just think, I've been saying this for quite a while now. Every time I've been asked this question, I just feel like Eli Manning's, his respect and honor for that New York Giants football organization is just supersedes him wanting to be on any other team. Again, I think that if he still wants to play football, and this is Eli having a talk with himself and looking at himself in the mirror, if he still wants to continue to play football, I think he for sure should go out there and seek out other teams for him to be a part of and not just be a backup. He wants to play. He wants to be a guy that's out there playing. I think he said that earlier this year. He wants to go out there and play. So if there's an opportunity for him to go out there and play and he still feels like he can contribute and play at a high level, then so be it. But me being around the guy for 7-8 years now, I think his love for the game. This is a guy that was emotional when Coach Coughlin left. This is a guy that, understands the nature of the beast with his team, didn't pout when when Daniel Jones came in and started week 3, maintained helping Daniel Jones, understanding the game, understanding how to watch film, just stayed in that room and stayed connected. That speaks volumes to the person that he is and what he means to that organization. Any other guy would have walked upstairs and said, get me out of here. I want to trade and I want to play.
Well, we know he has high character. The question is, can he do another season where he is having to compete for a job and be a backup, and where would those spots be? Is it New York? Is it Jacksonville? Is it Arizona? Where are those teams where he would be happy with his family, potentially competing and not being a starter? And after having those 2 types of games, does he see himself in, like that starter type fashion again? Like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be playing behind somebody. I don't know, I don't know.
There'll be a lot going on with the quarterback market this offseason. He's
Teddy Bridgewater,
action.
Phillip Rivers doesn't have a contract beyond this season, and we don't know what the Chargers are going to do there, whether they bring him back, whether they go in a different direction. So, Rob, what do you think when you watch Rivers these days?
Well, I think he still has a lot of fight and fire in him, I can tell you that. It doesn't look like a guy that wants to retire or move on from the game. So, I can tell you this, if the Chargers want him to come back, he definitely want to stay there. I know that he travels from San Diego back and forth. He has his family, he has a large family, so, he has a lot of roots there in California. But, I could definitely see him playing for another team just based on the way he plays the game and how much energy he brings to the table. Unfortunately for this season, I think it's tough with the turnovers and the things that have happened to them offensively, which a year ago they were in the playoffs and everything was looking like it was going in the right direction, and then this year it's a completely different feel for that whole team. So if the Chargers decide to move on from Rivers, I bet you he'll still want to play football. Maybe potentially for another team in the division. Maybe Oakland's looking for a new quarterback and a new start.
Could be.
Maybe Oakland, and Rivers is that type of guy, gunslinger guy, good mentality. Maybe Gruden
I could
could
tell
do
you
something.
they
good, black and
definitely
gray, too.
they were not
Silver and
anticipating, the amount of turnovers from Phillip this year, because I remember when I was asking them about the quarterback situation earlier this season, they're like, we're set at quarterback, and that was before all of these interceptions happened. So it'll be really interesting to see how they evaluate Phillip and where they are after this type of season and the way that it's gone.
Well, that's nothing new. He's always been a gunslinger. He's always had high
Yeah, but
interception
there's just been a
volume.
lot of games where
And I
he
think
hasn't.
the contrast from last year to this year is stunning, and I think that's why they're going to take a look at it.
For the NFC East, the Eagles in control now. Can they finish it off on Sunday? Big Ben has his sights set on a 2020 return. We will discuss his future in the wake of that elbow injury that has kept him on the sidelines since week 2. Plus, Marshawn Lynch's return to the Seahawks. Will it be beast or bust? See what I did there? You guys like what I did there? Beast or bust?
Beast or bust.
You got it.
Felt
Right?
good. It's not natural.
Marshawn.
Did you use
Felt
all of
good.
Christmas to figure that one out?
I just pulled it out over some eggnog. Dan Graziano here with Josina Anderson, Victor Cruz, Rob Ninkovich. We have team coverage all over the map. We are locked in on this Eagles-Cowboys game, Eagles-Cowboys 2 games that will decide the NFC East. We got Ed Werder in Dallas. We've got Sal Palantonio in Philadelphia previewing the Cowboys game against Washington and the Eagles game against the Giants. Philadelphia can clinch the NFC East crown with a victory over the Giants, while Dallas would need to beat Washington and have the Eagles lose. So let's start in Dallas with Ed Werder.